Hey everybody, Aaron here from the movie Battleground, and today we are here with the latest episode edition. Alright, whatever. We are here with the latest fight in our tournament. This is already going as well as the last time I hosted a match. Today we have two competitors here. One enters as a competitor who we know has the potential to really do something. He's coming in off a loss that was a while ago, but we know he wants to come back. The other stepped in for us at the last minute as a replacement. He's making his debut, so it'll be interesting to see how these two play off each other and how things go. So, getting to the intros, up first, coming in with a record of 1-1, we have Greg Weinstein. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I still disagree with that one loss, but if I was going to lose to that one person, at least it was to Jeremy, who the guy I lost to made it all the way to the finals, and I think should have won that final. But I mean, if this is
you and everybody else, that wasn't me.
Well, not to say. But I mean, this is what I had to do to continue my path and get back into the championship match. That's fine. I'm glad I'm going to beat this no-name guy twice in 1 week because I'm also facing his team in the actual trivia match for our worldwide movie games thing. So me and Luca are just going to represent here and there, and we're going all the way in both. Let's go.
All right, and he already did the introduction for him, kind of, I guess, here making his movie Battleground debut, coming in with a record, obviously, of 0-0. Asher Berkson Gold. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Cool. Asher, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, because it's about to be 1-0. It's going to be an easy match. I think he's a great competitor, from what I've seen, but, times are changing. He lost last time, so he'll lose again. It's pretty easy, pretty foolproof plan. You win once, you lose once, you lose again. You go down a streak of pain and terror. You think you're going to beat us in the movie trivia, whatever. It's just not going to happen. And, it's 2 a.m. here, and I'm still having a great time on a Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it is. I don't even care. I'm going to beat you. And the air quotes I couldn't even see. Were you trying to say it's a match? It's not going to be a match. It's going to be done before you even know it.
You certainly sound like it's 2 a.m. over there. All right, guys. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into this. So the way that the game works, if you have not seen it before, we're going to have 4 rounds of debate of pre-written questions. The competitors have picked their answers, and they know each other's answers ahead of time. So they've had a chance to both prepare arguments and then prepare counter-arguments. Each round is going to be 5 minutes long. However, the competitors each have 1 time limit extension. The competitors can use this at any point in the game if they so choose. The only caveat is they have to call it out before the round itself starts, and this will extend the round by 1 minute. If both competitors choose to use it on the same question, that is allowed, and we'll extend that one question up to 7, with the rest remaining at a time limit of 5. After the main fight, if the score ends 3-1 or 2-2, we enter the speed round. There will be 3 questions in which the competitors will hear the question for the first time then and there, pick their answers, and have a limited amount of time to argue the questions. If the main game ends 4-0 in a competitor's favor, that'll be a knockout victory, and that competitor will move on to the next round of the tournament. Do you guys have any questions?
No, it's going to happen, though. I'm going to knock him out, so it's fine.
So since you're already ahead of me in time, predict this victory for me.
All right, and with that, let's go ahead, guys, and get into the first question. And that question is, what is the best sidekick in a Disney movie? Now, we didn't limit this to animated or live. We didn't limit this with animated or live action, but both of these guys chose animated characters. One a more traditional choice, the other an unconventional choice. Let's see which one pays off more. And Greg, because you enter this match as the statistically higher competitor, you're going to be going first.
Okay, yeah, if you want to talk about the actual, the prototypical, the standard, the best choice, we're obviously going to talk about Robin Williams' indelible turn as Genie from Aladdin. When you're talking about the best sidekick, let's not even get into what he actually does in the movie, because I'll get into that a little bit later, but just Genie, Robin Williams as Genie steals that entire movie and makes the whole Disney stunt casting for the next 20 years what it is. There's rumor that he ad-libbed so much that they couldn't even get a adapted screenplay Oscar nomination. They had 16 hours of footage that they could have used that they didn't even put into the movie. He was so funny. And that's the only thing that his choice is going to reside on is comedy. Because if you're going to talk about actual sidekick, his choice is horrible. You want to go back to my choice? My choice is a genie who grants wishes. He is literally helping out his main person, Aladdin. He saves him 3 different times. Once by getting him out of the cave-in without even using up one of his wishes. Twice when he uses the second wish to escape from drowning. And the third when he gives him the idea how to defeat Jafar by saying that genie is the most powerful. And then before even that, he makes Aladdin a rich prince, giving him an option, giving him the audience he needs with the princess and the sultan to become and get the marriage and life he wants. And that is before everything else he does, including just being awesome, just being funny, just being musical. Everyone remembers his music. Nobody remembers his character's songs. Guess what? Because there were none. And he's just a better character in general. He's funnier. He's a better sidekick. And I have a lot more to say about it. And I can't wait for y'all to hear his suggestion, because if y'all hear it, y'all are going to laugh as much as I did.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. And Asher, go ahead with your opening arguments.
Cool. So, yeah, he steals the movie. Yeah, that's awesome. That's definitely what the sidekick is. So my option, I was going to choose the genie, but then I realized there were a lot of problems with that character. So I chose Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. This guy is funny as hell. He's dumb, but he means well. And what a sidekick should be is a subordinate to the actual hero or the villain. And in this story, he is the sidekick to Yzma, who is like this all-seeing villain who tries to kill her enemies. And she does it. She doesn't do it successfully, but she has the wherewithal to try and stop Kuzco from being the emperor. This guy is trying really hard at being his henchman, and he's trying really hard to be a sidekick. And I think what makes him a great sidekick is his trying. Not that he's successful, because we're going to see that Greg's going to say that, oh, the genie's successful, he's great. But he doesn't try. This kid tries. This guy tries. Sure, he's incompetent, and that's what makes him great. And if you're going to argue that he steals the show, he had a spin-off movie and it sucked, which means that he's a perfect sidekick and not a good lead character. If you're going to want a good main character, the genie could have had his own spin-offs and he would have been a great character. You're making the whole point that this guy steals the show, when if you steal the show, that's going to leave you with a main character and not a sidekick. The whole point of a sidekick is they're there when they're needed in little bits. And that's why Kronk is the best sidekick and not the genie.
All right, then. Good opening statements, guys. You guys are going to have 5 minutes on the clock. Time begins when one of you starts speaking.
Yeah, you want to talk about Kronk fails and Yzma fails because Kronk failed. He had one job to do, which was feed poison to Kuzco, and he failed at that. He turned him into a llama, and when Yzma tries to get him to kill him and throw him in the river, he fails at that too. He keeps failing. And then when Yzma, when he finally has his chance to give it to Yzma and finally come back at her, he fails at that by dropping a chandelier that completely misses on her and then falls into a trap door. Kuzco is a great comic relief, but a horrible sidekick to the person he's supposed to be sidekicking to.
You're not even saying the right name. Kronk.
In the entire movie.
You said Kuzco. You
Kronk is horrible. That's how forgettable he is. He's not helpful. He's just a side character comic relief.
Okay.
The genie helps his main character and actually even helps the villain when he has to, because that's his job. And what you do is character by the storyline. Aladdin is the main character because he's in the entire movie. Genie is in part of the movie and he steals his part, but he's still a side character and still a sidekick because he is not the main point of the story.
You could have chosen 4 other people. You could have chosen 4 other characters, and you chose the main character of the movie, the one with a driving force in the movie. Sidekicks aren't supposed to have necessarily driving forces. They're supposed to be either one note or helping the character, not overshadowing them. You could have chosen Abu, Iago, Raja, or even the carpet, but you chose the one that has the most effort and the most power in the movie. He has all cosmic power. This guy isn't a sidekick, he's a fucking superhero.
That's your argument, is that my sidekick is too nuanced and too 3D.
Yeah.
He's not a paper thin sidekick like yours. My sidekick is nuanced, has depth, has a...
No, I'm arguing that your sidekick isn't a sidekick. He's a superhero. He should be a main character, and he should go on to do several spin-off movies because this guy can do a lot. He can do superhero stuff. A sidekick is supposed to be a subordinate to...
Okay, I just wanna call on it real fast just because this is something that happens, so I'm trying to catch it more and more as it happens. You're kind of arguing the semantics of the question a little bit, which is fine, but I've got the point you're trying to make, and the answer was approved by me to be an answer for the question. So you can argue it if you want, but it's all being wrapped up into one point, so it may not aid you as much in the end. I'm just putting that out there.
Wait, what? Okay, so I should stop arguing the point then? Okay, don't really... No.
I'm saying... The fight has become that you're arguing the semantics of the question. The answer, you're saying that he's not a sidekick. You're arguing the semantics of the question.
He's a 3D.
You can keep using it.
That's the reason I didn't choose him, because he's not a sidekick. When I chose, I thought, he's a great Disney character.
Putting that out there. All right, time back on.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, no, he's a great Disney character. Yes, I'm not going to dispute that. Robin Williams, great voice acting. Probably should have been nominated for something. But he is not a sidekick. And there's a clear discrepancy between a sidekick like Kronk, who is a subordinate to Yzma, and a character like the genie, who is probably bigger than Aladdin in this movie. He steals the show, and he takes everything away from Aladdin.
The definition of a sidekick is to help out the person he's a sidekick to, which Genie does that in spades by, again, saving his life and making him better, and by teaching him how to really be a true friend. And the mark of a true sidekick is that even after Aladdin frees the genie and lets him go, Genie still wants to be around him, as evidenced in the second and third movies. He is no longer tied to Aladdin. He chooses to because he is a friend and a great sidekick. That is what a true sidekick does. They make the main character better. He makes Aladdin better. Your side character does not make any of the characters in the movie better. He is purely a comic relief character. He is a very funny character. He's a horrible sidekick. He doesn't help out anyone. He doesn't help out Yzma. He doesn't help. It doesn't help out anyone on purpose. Well, let me take that back. He doesn't help out anyone on purpose. Yeah. He is supposed to help out Yzma when he's supposed to, when like giving Cusco the poison, but instead he's too worried about his cream puffs to give him the right poison. And then he's supposed to get rid of. Yeah, he is a baker, but he's not a sidekick.
Oh, he's a sidekick. That's the whole. He's
a horrible sidekick.
He has hobbies, dude. Come on. Your guy does stand up.
Kick rolls. But I feel bad. I've been talking so much, and none of your points are coming through.
I mean, I'm arguing semantics here, and I think that should be pretty much the cake. But I whatever. At this point,
semantics don't make any sense either way.
Oh,
Aladdin is the main character.
Aladdin's the main character. Sure, he has an arc, but so does Genie. He needs to be freed.
You just explained better. He is a 3D new. He is not a part of the main plot. He is tangential to the main plot. The fact that he has a emotional kick, the fact that he wants to be free, is not a negative. It's a positive.
All right, and that is time on the round.
Yeah.
Greg, you're up first for closings. Go ahead.
I feel like I said all I need to say. Arguments don't make sense. The genie is a nuanced 3D sidekick that is tangential to the plot, that helps out the main character of Aladdin, who is the sole purpose of the plot. He's in every part of the movie. And Frank is not a good sidekick. He is a comic relief character, and that is all. He doesn't help out Yzma. He doesn't help out Yzma or Cusco on purpose. He does it accidentally, and that does not make a good character sidekick. When the sidekick is supposed to do what their person they're sidekicking to is wanting, and he doesn't help out Yzma in getting rid of Cusco, and he doesn't help out Cusco when trying to get rid of Yzma later on. Kronk is a funny guy, but he is not a sidekick. The genie is.
All right, and Asher, go ahead.
So his guy steals the show and becomes the main character in the end. My guy just helps make cream puffs and broccoli. Sidekick's supposed to help. Sure, maybe he doesn't help as much, but he is subordinate. And his guy is the main character pretty much throughout the movie. I know Aladdin's a main character too, but this guy steals the show throughout the thing. You could have chosen 4 other sidekicks who were subordinate, and you chose the one that was the hierarchy of them all. So, don't know. He has ultimate cosmic powers. He's a superhero, and you're calling him a sidekick. I just don't get it.
Okay, good round, guys. Not much to really fact check in terms of that. And here's the thing where it comes down to and this is on both ends. A lot of the round was spent arguing the semantics of what makes a sidekick. Asher's take was the genie's not a sidekick because he overpowers and more steals the show of the movie, and the type of character that he has written is not a typically written sidekick. Whereas Greg was arguing more, well, Kronk isn't really a sidekick because he doesn't succeed at anything. He doesn't actually assist the person he's supposed to be a sidekick to in any sort of positive way. And
I didn't say
with... Sorry?
You okay there?
Greg, sorry, you said something. I missed that.
Well, I said he was a bad sidekick. I never said he wasn't a sidekick. I just said he was a bad one.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I know what you're saying. I'm just bad at presenting that, but I get what you're saying. And that's the only problem, which is why I tried to cut in there, is arguing the semantics of a question. If an answer is accepted, then it beats the semantics, because when I'm looking at the answers, I have denied answers in the past on questions because it doesn't match the description of the answer of what we're looking for. So it's not like we just accept anything, and then if you feel it doesn't fall in, you argue the semantics of it, which both of you guys were trying to argue semantics on the fight, which is fair enough. But outside of the semantics argument, what was there, I think Greg did a little better of a job defending the genie as a sidekick than Asher did in terms of that, so Greg is going to get the point on this round.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, and with that, we are moving on to the second round of today's match. Greg is currently up 1-0, and as we move into the second question, ignoring continuity, because in order to make this question work, we have to ignore that. We're talking about just the characters themselves. Ignoring the continuity, which MCU villain deserves a second chance on screen? And this question can be interpreted as multiple things. This can be interpreted as which villain, which may not have delivered, deserves the second chance to try and deliver. Which villain that was really, really good can be used again in a positive way. You can interpret this however you like, but the question is, which MCU villain deserves a second chance on screen? And Asher, you're going to go first with the opening arguments. Go ahead.
Okay. So at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, we get an end credit scene where we see the Vulture, Adrian Toomes, walking in a prison, and he gets bumped by Matt Gargan. We find out it's a Scorpion. Matt Gargan says, "Man, need to know where this Peter Parker guy is. I heard you know where he is. Really want to hurt him." So Adrian Toomes lies and says he doesn't know, but if he would, he's already dead by now. Cut to 2018. Adrian Toomes is still in prison. His daughter Liz and his wife Doris are in Oregon. Peter Parker is still swinging around in New York. The weapons that Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, have scraped off from the Shatori aliens, those weapons have been falling into the wrong hands. Even though Peter Parker stopped a lot of them, there have still been some that have been smuggled. Cut to Oregon. We see a man walking in, carrying something suspicious into the local Oregon high school. Takes out a gun. It's not just any gun, though. It's a alien gun. It's a Shatori gun. Adrian Toomes watches on the news in his cell a school shooting in Oregon. I know this is very dark, but this is where I was thinking of going. He realizes the turmoil that he has caused with his weapons. And he realizes that he needs Spider-Man to help. He tries to get in contact with Spider-Man. But because of the movie deals, probably not going to get in contact with him. It's fine. So he decides that he must put an end to his own creations in order to stop and save his daughter and other people who would be going through this. It's a very modern, it's a very now story that would be taken probably in context in a very different direction from anything we've ever seen in Marvel. And this man is a pretty sympathetic villain, so it would make sense to do a turn like that. And that's my story.
Okay. And with your opening arguments.
Wow. That was super interesting, and I'm going to get into that a lot in our arguments. But just so we can have a second. So my character, I'm going with Armin Zola, Toby Jones' character, who he played in Captain America, the First Avenger. But he was great in the First Avenger. What I'm bringing him into, why he needs a second chance, is because of the disrespectful way he was treated in the Winter Soldier. The Armin Zola character in the comic books, once he dies and transforms himself into a humanoid, the Winter Soldier, which was a great movie that was brought down by a 4-minute expository scene with this guy in a computer, which I guarantee you most casual fans had no idea who the hell and what the hell that was about. It is a bogged down in the movie just so the directors can explain what SHIELD is and get out of the way and get onto the real villains of the movie. It is a horrible use of a great character. It is a horrible scene in a great movie, and it just bogs down so hard. What they should have done, there are two options they could have gone with it, was one, I thought it would have been better, and actually it would have been a way to use Robert Redford's character, was to have him be the humanoid skin on Armin Zola, and then at the end he rips it away, and that's Armin Zola. Or you have Armin Zola as the humanoid cyborg, and the villain is Q. Because there's a great comic book storyline where he takes the DNA of different superheroes and creates these evil husks of them. And if you think about the end of Wolverine, where you have, the end of Logan, where you have Wolverine facing the X-25 clone, he could have done some great stories with that were based on the comics. And it was a horrible way for this character to go out with just a 4-minute expository scene, which just like, the guy's talking to the computer. What the hell is going on? It was horrible. It was crappy. It wouldn't have been. It wasn't as bad as what Ash was using, but it was still pretty bad. But there were so many ways they could have gone with it, and they ruined it horribly.
Okay, and with that, we're going to go ahead and move into the open argument part of the fight. You guys are going to have 5 minutes to argue. Time starts when one of you begins speaking.
You want a cyborg face as your villain? After 2 chances, he's been in 2 movies in the MCU already, and you want a cyborg face as your villain. Okay, that's interesting.
Before those.
What? Iron Man was in 4 of those? Is that what you're saying?
No, Armin Zola and Winter Soldier is before Ultron.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you that well.
Who are you referencing when you say, who are you referencing?
I'm referencing Zola.
No. You said they were already. Never mind. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I thought I was referencing the right thing. Anyway, I just don't see that reboot being a likely reboot or a reboot that would actually make sense. I don't see a person stealing skins as a very plausible thing. I'm rooted in realism. Yeah, I'm rooted in realism here. And yes, it's dark and it's depressing. And yes, Marvel has never taken that before.
Are you serious?
Realism, yes.
Franchise bringing in a school shooting, and not only are you bringing in a school shooting, you're making there's going to be a little bit dark.
I'm not making a parody of a school shooting, if that's what you're going to say. I'm going to make it serious.
I'm saying I want you to think about it for a second. You're making a school shooting with the main character called the Vulture.
Yes. I don't see the problem in that. I don't see the problem in that. I see that we see a man and we see a problem with weapons in our society. And he's realizing that he's the person who caused this turmoil.
I thought you were going to turn it into a Sinister Six movie, which would have been a great idea, and you might have won this argument. But instead, you're spinning off the Vulture into his own movie in Oregon, which, by the way, I think going to cross up with Twilight characters as well.
No, of course not.
And you're talking about how Spider-Man might be in the movie. You're going to have a standalone Vulture movie wrapped around a school shooting.
Sure.
Why
not? Why not, though? Like, now is the perfect time for this movie. Now is the perfect time for this movie. We've been talking about gun control for ages, and we've done nothing about it.
And your solution is to have the Vulture be the main character about that movie? That's your argument?
I think it's yes, my argument is the man who created those weapons to stop and realize that he has caused a problem.
First of all, the only reason why Vulture is in that mess to begin with is because of Tony Stark and his whole damage control system. Why didn't you bring that up? You're taking him away from the reason why he became the Vulture. You're taking him all the way on the other side of the country to Oregon, which nobody cares about Oregon. Your whole storyline, why wasn't it something to do with against Stark? I don't understand how you came up with this storyline. There were so many other better storylines, but I'm not going to help you out anymore with your arguments because I'm going to get to my own argument. Armin Zola would have been one of the first cyborg characters in the Marvel U before Ultron. If that was what you were saying. And after Iron Man, which is not a cyborg, he's a guy in a mech suit. That's not a cyborg.
No, I'm not saying he's a cyborg.
Okay, there was a connection, but the issue is that you're talking about how there can't be any skin face on any characters. It's been going on a Mission Impossible for 20 years. And you're saying it can't be done in Avengers movies? It can't be done by Armin Zola, where 60 years later his consciousness is the fulcrum of the SHIELD propaganda? That's what you find.
I'm not saying that. No, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing that this man has had 2 chances to be in movies, and now we're deciding to put him in a movie where he's going to be changing faces. Sure, I guess special effects have gone a long way. Sure, I just don't see how that can be a gripping movie. I get your points, and I'm getting your points, but I feel like my movie has a lot of...
Did you like Robert Redford or Armin Zola's character in Winter Soldier? Weren't you let down by both times?
I like Robert Redford's character more.
Right, but you were still let down by...
I was still let down by the... No, I actually liked the Hydra intrigue in the movie. I thought it was interesting.
Hydra being a part of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a great plotline. Robert Redford's character doesn't go anywhere. What could have gone
because he's held at gunpoint. He's held at gunpoint. He can't go anywhere.
A cyborg. If he's a human, it matters. If he's a cyborg, it doesn't matter.
Okay, listen. My point is that I would rather see a movie that's very telling and very touching to a time and a period that's very prominent and pertinent in society today.
Right, that is time on the round. But Asher, you're up first for closing, so go ahead.
Okay. I'd much rather tell a story that's much more telling and much more touching and much more pertinent and prominent in today's society than tell another movie about a guy face swapping intrigue into Shield or Hydra or whatever. I'd much rather tell a movie about a character turning over a new leaf, realizing that the people who he loves is because he is hurting them. And because of his weapons and because of the lack of gun control in society and because of what he's done, he's caused problems to those he loves. I'd much rather tell a story like that. And yes, maybe Spider-Man isn't in it. So what? I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that I just see a lot of problems in today's society, and I'd much rather do a movie steeped in this realism than a movie about face swapping. That's just me.
All right, and Greg, go ahead.
Hey, guess what, guys? Marvel finally became very sad and tragic. I understand where Asher's trying to go. He's trying to make a poignant real-world movie that's based around a horrible plague on our society, which he is all the more I applaud him for doing it. He should go and do it, but it should not involve any superhero or Marvel character, especially one called the Vulture, which the whole point of a character called the Vulture is that it picks the skin off of dead corpses, just like the Vulture, the character, does in Homecoming, where he picks the alien weaponry off the dead Chitauri. You're bringing a character called the Vulture into a movie about dead kids. That is a horrible idea. I respect your idea to do a movie based off a school shooting where people learn the error of their ways, but it is not a Marvel movie. It is not a Marvel character movie, and it is just your aspirations are in the right place, but your execution is wrong. And what you need to think about is an actual Marvel movie, and think about a character a Marvel villain that should have been done better, and Armin Zola could have been done better. Even if you take away face swapping, which I think would have made Robert Redford's character better and Armin Zola's character a hell of a lot better, you could have just made him a villainous Q character, like I said. The Vulture could have been done better in another storyline with the Sinister Six, which you didn't bring up. The Armin Zola could have been better, where he creates his own version of the Sinister Six in the Marvel franchise. You didn't do that. It's just clear which villain needs a better storyline, and Armin Zola deserved a better storyline because he was ruined in a 4-minute expository scene.
All right, and once again, another good round from you guys. I think both of you guys did a good job pitching across what you guys were trying to do with your ideas and your pitches. And even though, if I'm being quite honest, I don't love Greg's pitch, I think his closing hit on the problem with Asher's perfectly. Is that it's a noble idea that he has in the pitch. I just don't know if the executional idea that was pitched was the best way to go about it. And so because of that, I didn't necessarily hear enough from Asher to counterpoint Greg's idea. So even though I don't necessarily love it, I'm going to give the point to Greg on that one. But that was a tough round.
Okay.
All right, guys, going into question number 3. The question is, because coming up, we have the release of the brand new movie Death Wish, starring Bruce Willis, who is a guy who has kind of become known for slacking just a little bit in his film career in recent years. His movies have comparatively not been as good as a lot of his earlier work. So we thought we'd ask the question, and obviously I'll reserve my opinion to the end, but I thought the obvious one, for me at least, was the one that wasn't picked here. But the question is, what is the best Bruce Willis movie from the year 2000 and onwards?
I'm gonna.
You want to use your extra minute on this round?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Greg is implementing his extra minute on this round. All right, guys, so Greg, you're up first for opening arguments, so go ahead.
1 minute, 1 minute too. 1 extra minute too.
Do you want to use it as well, Asher?
Yeah, let's have a 7-minute battle.
All right, we are doing the first ever 7-minute battle here on Movie Battleground in the main fight. Greg,
Right
you're
on.
up first. What is the best Bruce Willis movie from the year 2000 and onwards?
Okay, I think this is honestly might come down to a semantic argument, but I still think my movie is overall better. And my movie, of course, is actually one of his first movies of that actually fits this question, which is Unbreakable from M. Night Shyamalan, which came out in the year 2000. The great thing about this movie is that you don't know what this movie is until the end. And then when you come back through it, it just makes it all the more richer. The fact that this movie is an origin story for a superhero and a supervillain is just a fantastic idea from a guy who apparently should only stick in this universe because that's all he can do is the David Dunn Mr. Glass universe, as we evidenced by Split, which I can't wait for the prequel Mr. Glass, or I think it's just called Glass.
Yeah, it's Glass.
It's Glass.
But going back just to Bruce Willis is so alive in this movie, and it's a character we don't really see him in often because he's so unsure of himself throughout the entire movie. And the great thing about it is he has actually no reason to be unsure of himself. He is a superhuman guy with super strength, and his only weakness is water. But he's so unsure of himself. He's not good in his marriage. He's not the best father. And he's always been taking these shortcuts. He's been taking these short routes. He chose he dropped out of his athletic career to be with his wife after the accident. He takes his nominal security guard just because it's cheap and easy. He doesn't do what a Bruce Willis character should, what you expect from a Bruce Willis code, which is to be the hero until the end. And it is a great transformation from Bruce Willis, who is the passive, dare I say, weakling character, and him slowly turning out to be his own self. Imagine if Clark Kent never knew he was Superman until he found out he was Superman later in his life. Clark Kent becoming Superman is basically this movie, and it is fascinating the way it goes. And this is a better Bruce Willis movie, and a better movie, I believe, overall than what his choice is going to be and what he will talk about. And Asher, go ahead with your loser movie.
Okay, cool. So,
all right, Asher.
Yeah. So part of me was going to choose Unbreakable. I decided not to because I think when you think
7 minutes.
Okay, I mean, if that helps you for some reason, I don't think it will because I didn't choose it, and there's a reason why I didn't choose it, and I'll explain that later. When you look at Bruce Willis from 2000 onward, you see a man who doesn't try in movies. You see a man who puts on a plain face, a stale face, and just gets a paycheck. He's done it in several films. He's done it in Cop Out. He's done it in the most recent Die Hard. He's done it in Red. He's done it in Red 2. He's done it in several films. I don't even need to list them all.
Love Red.
This is okay. This is why you take a visionary director and you use that director and you let that director utilize Bruce Willis to his strengths. This is why I'm saying you take Wes Anderson and you put Bruce Willis in a movie about teenage love and you call it Moonrise Kingdom. And that's why this is what I think is the best Bruce Willis movie from 2000 onward. I know that Greg's probably going to argue that Bruce Willis isn't really in the movie that much, but I don't think that's really a big point. I think Bruce Willis has a pretty important arc, not the biggest arc, because I think the two people, the two lovers, the two children are the biggest arc. But I think Bruce Willis's character as being just a lonely man, just driving through the woods, a lonely captain, I just think is a pretty interesting role that he's not really done before. You want to talk about something that Bruce Willis doesn't do in his movies. Think about this movie. He doesn't do any action. He doesn't punch anybody. He doesn't fight anybody. He saves a kid, and he has that kid, and he He raises that kid. He ends up raising that kid. That's Bruce Willis's character in this movie. And I'm not saying that Bruce Willis acted this that well, even though he did, in my opinion. I think that it's because of the direction of Wes Anderson that makes this movie the best movie that Bruce Willis is in from 2000 onward.
All right, good opening statement, guys. And again, I'll just preface real fast before we get into this. I don't know where Greg was referencing that he was going to go, but I'll just throw out, if the semantic is that Bruce Willis isn't necessarily the lead, with the question, we just need him to have a major role in the movie. And I did fact check this before I accepted the answer. He is at the top of the cast list. No matter what the size of his role is in the movie, he is listed at the top. So if you have an angle you want to argue for, by all means, go ahead. I'm just prefacing that it was accepted as an answer, and I did do the research to make sure it could count as him having a major role. All right. With that being said, because you guys both used your 1 minute extension, we have 7 minutes on the clock. Time starts when one of you begins speaking.
Okay, I fully accept that this is a Bruce Willis movie. It is just not a best Bruce Willis movie. It is not the epitome of a Bruce Willis movie. It is. You can have the argument that it's the epitome of a Wes Anderson movie, but it is not a. It is not the crux. It is not the highest tier of a Bruce Willis movie. And if you look at any Bruce Willis best to worst rankings, while Moonrise Kingdom is a good movie and better than a lot of the movies in his top 10, if you look at the rankings, people forget about Moonrise Kingdom. It's not in a lot of the top 10 lists that I've seen. It's incredible. Unbreakable is always there, and it should be, because it is impeccably acted by Bruce Willis. He's in every scene. He is the main driving force of the movie. His two perfect, and I'm going to bring up two scenes in general: the weightlifting scene and the scene at the end when he finds out about Mr. Glass. And those two scenes, one, he is fawning, he is becoming mesmerized by what he can do, and he is becoming in awe of his own self, not even realizing that his son is putting on more weight. And then you have the ending scene where you have Samuel Jackson, where Samuel Jackson finally gives a big reveal of what he did, and Bruce Willis is showing how the disgust, the repulsion, the confusion, the shock, all in one quick scene. And the fact that he thought this guy was his friend, his mentor, and in one quick swoop, he becomes his arch enemy. And if you want to talk about a director getting the best out of Bruce Willis, every movie Shyamalan and Bruce Willis have done together have been good movies. Signs, Unbreakable, and Split were all great movies.
Sixth Sense. He said Signs.
Oh yeah, Sixth Sense. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and I'm expecting Glass to be another great one. But they are a great pair. The Moonrise Kingdom is a great Wes Anderson movie, and Bruce Willis is okay in the movie. He doesn't really. And if you want to think of a movie where he does the same thing, just look at The Kid right around 2001. He basically does the same thing.
Okay, so this movie, Unbreakable, some few things right here. So what did M. Night Shyamalan make after Unbreakable? He made Signs, which is okay. He made The Village, which is passable. He made The Happening, which is laughable. He made...
You're right. You should have stuck with Bruce Willis.
The reason why I'm saying this is it made M. Night Shyamalan think he could do anything. This movie, sure, Sixth Sense was where he was called the next Spielberg. This movie was also very lauded by critics. This one really was a launching pad for M. Night Shyamalan to say, you know what, I can do anything. So he decided to make Signs, which was fine again, and then he started to make crappier and crappier and crappier films. And when you go back to Split, which was very good, I will give you that, it might be a resurgence, but it also might be a downfall again. He might get the same exact thing. So you're taking a man's life, and this man's going to be like, oh, this movie was good. I might actually just make a crappy movie again. I'm not super excited for Glass because I'm worried that he's going to have the overconfidence again, saying that, hey, I'm back, and just ruin another movie. And I know that's not the argument at hand. The argument at hand is whether Unbreakable is better than Moonrise Kingdom. But what I'm saying is this is taking the confidence.
It's this whole separate thing where you're saying Unbreakable was so good and that we should punish it for creating the badness afterwards?
I'm saying that Unbreakable created an ego on this man that led to terrible movies afterwards. I'm not saying it's the best. I'm saying that it's good, and I'm not saying it's the best. I'm saying that it's good, and because of that, it was good. It led him to say, "Oh, I'm going to create movies now that were crap." So that's a big point for mine. And the other point of mine is that I think Wes Anderson's much more of a visionary than M. Night Shyamalan. I think he's had a great track record, and I think that he has utilized Bruce Willis to a better ability in a movie than M. Night Shyamalan in Unbreakable. I think that he utilized a lot of Bruce Willis's not trying acting in a sense, because Bruce Willis is going to be quoted as subtle in this movie, and you're going to take a man who doesn't really act from 2000 onward, and you're going to place him in a movie. You're going to make him subtle. That's the point. And every movie that he's done since 2000, or most movies that he's done, has been him as the burly or the action guy or the punchy guy or something like that. No, what he should do is he should be a subtle person who, if he doesn't want to try, that's fine. He doesn't want to try, and that's his character. And it's used well because it's well written and well acted, and it has good shots and good pans and good tilts. And sure, I don't think Bruce Willis is a great actor anymore. I think he was good in the 80s and 90s when he had a lot of energy. And sure, if you want to say that Unbreakable's fine and is a good movie and he's a great actor in it, that's fine. I just don't see it. I see him in a performance as another action guy. I see him acting again in another punch movie. I just don't see it.
He gets into one fight in that movie, and he barely wins that because he gets him stuck in the water. The Unbreakable is completely antithetical to the rest of his movies. There is barely any action. He doesn't really throw a punch in the entire movie. And even when even catching the bad guy, he calls the cops to do it. He doesn't bring him in. He calls the cops on Mr. Glass. And I don't understand your argument. If your argument is that Wes Anderson's a better director than M. Night Shyamalan, you're right. I'll agree with you. Wes Anderson is a much better director than M. Night Shyamalan. That's not the argument. The argument is, and it's not an argument about whether Unbreakable caused M. Night Shyamalan to get a big head. If it did, that's on M. Night Shyamalan. That's not on this argument. The argument is Unbreakable versus Moonrise Kingdom. The Unbreakable is a much better movie because it's a better character role for Bruce Willis, as Moonrise Kingdom he's playing just a regular old cop with a bit of a sweet side, which you can see in plenty of other roles, a la the kid, like I've mentioned. Unbreakable is the true sign of him being a character because it's him not realizing that he is Bruce Willis. You think about his movies, that all of his movies you could think of, it's Bruce Willis being Bruce Willis. This is Unbreakable, where Bruce Willis. Think about it, Bruce Willis before he became Bruce Willis. It's him becoming Bruce Willis, which we might see in Glass. But
that is time on the argument. Greg, you were up first for closing. Go ahead. Yeah, Greg, you're first for closing.
Okay. Asher had no actual arguments that really would have helped him win this argument. He helped him win this discussion because he doesn't have an argument, because he knows Unbreakable is a better movie. Wes Anderson is obviously a better director. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Even Shyamalan will say Wes Anderson's a better director. That's not the question. The question is, what's the better Bruce Willis movie? Unbreakable is a better Bruce Willis movie because he is acting his ass off in that entire movie. Him talking to the doctor after finding out he was the only survivor of this train crash. Him discovering his own strength in the weight room. Him finding out about Mr. Glass and how evil and sickening he is. And you want to talk about it's a different role. He barely throws a punch. He has one fight and he almost loses because he gets thrown in the water. And he doesn't take down the bad guy. The cops take down the bad guy. He makes a phone call. And Bruce Willis in that movie is the great character arc and one of the greatest performances in a superhero movie ever, and that is what makes it a much better movie. As Wes Anderson movie is a great coming of age tale, but you can't have a coming of age tale with an actor in his 50s. He's not part of the coming of age tale. He is a side character who has some good scenes, who has a good connection with the character, but in Unbreakable he has a much better arc. He is actually doing better. He's a good part of the ensemble. like every Wes Anderson movie, it's a Wes Anderson movie through and through. Unbreakable is a great Bruce Willis movie, and that's what he deserved.
All right, and Asher, go ahead for closing arguments.
What's the best Bruce Willis movie? So you have Unbreakable, a movie about a person finding out that he has abilities and superpowers. Sure. Most Bruce Willis movies are based on action, punching, and him making snarly grits and stuff like that. Snarly grunts and growls. And him not having any emotion in his face because he's not trying anymore. And back in the day, he was just punching and doing one-liners and stuff like that. I think a good movie and the best Bruce Willis movie is actually the anti-Bruce Willis movie, which comes from a man who's not trying, which comes from a director who's using those to his strengths by making this character lack anything and feeling nothing until he meets this kid and realizes maybe this kid in his life could do him some good. Maybe this relationship is more important than the rift between these two families. Maybe all of these things in his life are leading to this moment. I think that is a good character arc. I think that's the best Bruce Willis character arc you have in the movie. I think that if you're taking Bruce Willis and flipping it on his head, I think it actually, I argue, is a better Bruce Willis movie than taking a prototypical Bruce Willis movie where he acts and punches and kicks. And sure, maybe there are less than usual, but he still does all that. It's still a Bruce Willis movie in that regard. And I think the best Bruce Willis movie is when you actually throw that all out the window and you just get to see him being used with his strengths by a very good director and a very good story. So that's why Moonrise Kingdom, I think, is the better Bruce Willis movie.
All right, guys, good round there. Just a couple quick fact checks and things that I decided to look up during the round. Obviously, we're talking about better, and I always preface this before I say it. Rotten Tomatoes is not the end-all, be-all, but it is a good aggregator of what people think of a movie generally. In terms of critical response, Unbreakable has a 68% based on 161 reviews. Wow, Moonrise Kingdom has a 94% based on 233 reviews. So critically, one was more lauded than the other. You guys mentioned real fast the article that came out that compared Shyamalan to Spielberg. That article was released in 2003 after the release of Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs. And then just for fun, because we did ask the question, I decided to look up and fact check just how true this idea that Bruce Willis has kind of given up is. The list of fresh reviewed movies on Rotten Tomatoes since the year 2000. Unbreakable at 68%, Bandits at 64%, Heart's War at 60%, Sin City at 70%, Over the Hedge at 75%, Grindhouse at 83%, Live Free or Die Hard at 82%, Red at 70%, Moonrise Kingdom at 93%, The Expendables 2 at 66%, and the last one is Looper at 93%, which means Bruce Willis has not starred in a movie since 2012 that had a fresh review.
Yeah.
So, this one's kind of true. Yeah. He has kind of given up. All right, so in terms of the arguments, I think both of you guys took different angles, and you guys did a really good job of defending your choices and why it fit what you were trying to argue in terms of which was the better Bruce Willis movie. But I'm going to have to give Greg the point on this one because Asher didn't really hit Unbreakable all that much. His biggest point against it was that the success of the film hurt Shyamalan's ego in the long run and may have led him to making worse movies, which isn't necessary. It isn't a hit on Unbreakable. It's a hit on Shyamalan personally, and I agree with what he's saying, and I think it does say a lot about Shyamalan that he kind of fell into that Spielberg hype. But in terms of talking about the actual movie and talking about Bruce Willis within the movie, there wasn't a whole lot of negative there. The only other thing that was mentioned was that it still kind of fits into this general idea of what people have of a Bruce Willis film. But even then, Greg did a good enough job arguing that even if there is similarities, it's not the same thing as a Die Hard movie or an action movie that he appeared in. So with that, I am going to have to give Greg the point on this round.
Cool.
All right, guys. So here's where we are at entering the final round. The score is currently 3-0 in favor of Greg. If Greg gets the point on this, it will be a knockout victory for Greg. If Asher pulls out the point on this, we will go into the speed round, but Asher will have to win every round from here on out in order to win the game.
Cool. Not too hard.
No, not that hard.
Not that hard.
With that being said, though, we decided to ask the question, what is the worst movie starring Natalie Portman that's not the Thor movies or the Star Wars prequels? Because people generally talk about how her blockbusters are not as good as her smaller movies. So we exclude those 5 options from the category that people would generally turn to quickest as her worst films. Let's go past that. Let's get into some of the stuff people may not have seen as much or may not remember very well. What is the worst movie starring Natalie Portman, excluding the Thor films or the Star Wars prequels? And Asher, you are up first for opening arguments on this one. Go ahead.
Okay, one thing I love is a great stoner comedy. One thing I don't love is a comedy that's not funny. Natalie Portman in the comedy is not really good. And this is a very, very important thing to see when you're talking about Your Highness, the 2009 stoner comedy that stars Danny McBride, James Franco, and Natalie Portman. Now, I think this movie is not funny. I'm going to say it several times in this episode. You can even put a counter over there. I think the whole point of a comedy is it's supposed to make you laugh. I don't laugh once throughout this entire movie. It's on Comedy Central almost all the time, and it's in syndication still, and yet you're putting a not funny movie in syndication. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that this movie serves its purpose at all, and I think it is her worst movie because it is her worst choice and her worst movie because as a whole it does not serve the purpose it is trying to show. The stoning, the high scenes are not funny, and the rest of the movie just doesn't interest me at all. I don't see any really redeemable part of this movie, and you have Danny McBride as a lead character in a comedy. I just don't see that working, and it didn't work in this movie. I just, so with all those, and I know Greg's going to choose a movie that, like, I know what his argument's going to be, but I'll let him say it. But I just don't think I think this is her worst movie. She's a great catalog besides this blemish, and I think this is her worst movie.
All right, and Greg, go ahead with your opening argument.
Well, if you that it's worse, then the movie is worse. First of all, I have so many things to say about it. But the first thing is that, it might not be the funniest movie. It definitely has some comedic bits, especially revolving around a tete-a-tete between James Franco and Danny McBride, and the whole Justin Throw wizard thing, which is gets some laughs. But her whole role was not to be the comedic part of that movie. She's a straight person. But let's move on to that. Let's move on. Wait, save that for the actual middle section. My opening argument is I'm going to talk about a movie that is just straight up boring and an affront to kid-friendly movies everywhere, and is basically a ripoff of Willy Wonka. And I'm also talking about, what, you still don't know the movie? Oh, okay, I'll tell you, because nobody remembers the movie except for me because I hated it. It was Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium.
I know.
Yeah, because it was my choice. Thank you. I'm glad you agree with me. Let's give him a name that makes this a rhyming name just so people might remember it. This is a G-rated movie that is boring. This is a movie for kids, and the crux of the movie is that the store owner and the store itself are dying because of the store. And Natalie Portman is playing this 20, 30-year-old woman who can't get her life together and whose only life is the store. And she's breaking down because she's not accepting Dustin Hoffman leaving, which we're not even going to talk about Dustin Hoffman and his whole thing. But it's a bad movie. That just explains it overall. And we're going to get into even more, but I have a closing argument things as well. But it's just a bad movie. It's bad CGI. It's boring. There's nothing funny about it. It relies on sight gags Like this woman goes into the shop and goes, "Hey, how much is that mobile?" And it's $50. Why is it so much? Oh, because the fish are alive. Because if you want a cheaper one, there's some fish sticks on this one for $17. That is the crux of a joke in this movie: a live fish mobile and a fish sticks for the different pricing. It is a horrible, boring movie. It's not memorable, and I'm assuming it was a paycheck job based on the actual budget of this movie.
All right, and once again, guys, you have 5 minutes on the clock. Time starts when one of you begins speaking.
Okay, if you want a stoner comedy, that's your stoner comedy. Get high to that and watch that. You will laugh at how great it is.
No, you will still be bored.
No, I have gotten. Well, I can't. I don't know, but if one were to do that, the better experience would come from Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium as opposed to Your Highness.
We can have a high off after this, and we'll find out.
I would love to take you on that, but I just in the golden age of stoner comedies, you had Harold and Kumar, Pineapple Express, Dude, Where's My Car, and then some lesser ones. Even they were passable, like Grandma's Boy and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And then you have this movie, which just does not cut it next to everything else. It's a pile of crap on this very interesting mountain. What? And I just don't see this movie in any redeemable light. You have James Franco coming off of Pineapple Express, and he makes this shit. You have Danny McBride as I just don't, and I get that you're a G-rated movie and it's just boring, but I would rather sit through a movie where maybe if I toked up and saw pretty colors, it would be more interesting than this thing. Because this,
and that's the thing. Take away the pretty colors. They take away the pretty colors halfway through the movie, and it's getting grayer and grayer. For about 30, 40 minutes of the movie, the store becomes sick and is dying and becomes gray. The great thing about the only thing about the movie is that it's a great toy shop, and they take away the color. They take away the fantasy for a good 30 minutes of the movie until there's one 3-minute scene at the end after Dustin Hoffman dies and Natalie Portman, a spoiler alert, sorry for all those who weren't going to see it. And then Natalie Portman gets and tries to do this whole CGI fest where she gets the store back. It's 3 minutes, and then the movie ends, and it's a horrible CGI smorgasbord of crap for 3 minutes. And I guarantee you, I can give you one scene in your movie that's better than mine, and it's the bathing suit scene that Natalie Portman jumps into. And if anything, you're gonna say,
yeah, don't you objectify her, okay? You're gonna objectify Natalie Portman on YouTube right now? You're gonna take that stance. You're gonna take that stance right now.
Talking about what's a better movie? If you're gonna talk about nothing else,
okay.
Your movie.
Listen, man. Listen. I was talking about colors, and I was talking about sights and sounds. I was not talking about objectifying Natalie Portman, which is what you just did.
I'm talking about a great sight.
Okay. So chalk this one up to sexism rules all. Okay, cool. Topple the patriarchy.
It's a stoner. What do you?
Okay. I don't know. I'm picking up an argument that you put down. So,
dude, where's my car? I'm talking about the alien. You look at the skirt, but that's besides the point. Natalie Portman character.
Top of the heap. I just said it was a better movie than this. There are better. Okay, you go. Yeah.
The movie is well, the movie might not be great. It's better than my movie, but the thing it might not be great at is that Natalie Portman, they don't ask her to be the comedic flavor of the movie. She is not asked to be the comedic. She is the straight face in the movie who is just incredulous at the fact that Danny McBride is even in the movie. So basically, she's you. Saying you're incredulous to Danny McBride, and she's not a damsel in distress like Zooey Deschanel. She is a warrior woman who is avenging the death of her family, and it is a great role. I think she's probably playing it like she's in Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, which is a great way to go about it. She is serviceable, and she uses dramatic effects to a great part Whereas Mr. Gregorium, she has no romantic chemistry with Jason Bateman. She's pretty much depressed and sad throughout the entire kids movie, except for a very brief part at the beginning and the ending part. And it is not a good movie. And the main character, for some reason, Dustin Hoffman is playing this with a lisp and a wig, and then he breaks down. He has to go into a psychiatric facility. It is not a good movie.
So the question was, what's the worst movie star? I'm going to do semantics here. What's the worst movie starring?
Okay,
Natalie
but
Portman?
hold up. That is actually the end of the main fight.
So I'll just do it during closing. It's fine.
Yeah. You are up first for closing.
Oh, good. So the question is, what's the worst movie starring Natalie Portman? And you just said all the other things in this movie, in Your Highness, that were terrible. This is not about what is the worst Natalie Portman movie. So it's not about whether Natalie Portman's good in it or not. This is about whether it is the worst movie starring Natalie Portman. This movie did not make me laugh at all. I didn't find anything redeemable in it. You have other great stoner comedies during this time, and you can get high and watch Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium and watch the color get sucked out, and I would probably ooh and ah because it's more of a spectacle than this. This thing lacks all substance. This thing lacks all joy, and this thing does the worst thing of all: put Danny McBride in a lead role in a comedy. Because there's no goddamn way he should do that.
It's never been done before.
I haven't. Listen, I just don't like his comedy. I guess it's subjective, but for me, it is the worst thing you can do. I just did not find this movie funny at all. I would much rather watch a movie about a toy maker losing the color in his toy shop. I would. Because at least there would be some substance with some extra chemicals in that compared to this.
All right, and Greg, go ahead.
First of all, the stoner comedy. It doesn't have to have substance. That's the whole point of a stoner comedy. The second of all, Danny McBride he's a comedic actor. Yeah, he's better as a supporting role, but he did The Fit First Way. He did Eastbound and Down. He is a great lead character in a comedy. But that's which it makes, and I said the movie was better because of Natalie Portman's dedication to her role in that movie makes that movie better than my movie because she's clearly in a paycheck role. And if you want to talk about movies, which movies being worse, my movie killed a career. The director of Mr. Gregorium's Wonder Emporium had a great script for Stranger Than Fiction, but then completely burns out after Mr. Gregorium's Wonder Emporium. Zach Helm. It is the only movie he directed, which if you've seen the movie, you know why. It was a $65 million bloated mess, and it sucked. It didn't do what it was supposed to. David Gordon Green has been making great movies ever since. Made good movies before. He had a bit of a he went in a different direction, which is why I think this movie is better, is because Your Highness at least goes in a different direction. Natalie Portman rarely does comedies, and David Gordon Green rarely does these kind of comedies. It was a great diversion for both of them, creating a decent medieval Your Highness storytale with some great bits, including Justin Theroux, including the tete-a-tete between James Franco and Danny McBride as the brothers, and Natalie Portman at least playing it straight the way she should, as in opposed to Mr. Gregorium's Wonder Emporium, which is boring. The main character is basically dying throughout the entire movie, and the store is going with it, and it is not fun. There's no romantic chemistry between Jason Bateman and Natalie Portman. Jason Bateman is basically just playing the same role he always plays in his sleep, and he's basically sleepwalking through the movie. Mr. Gregorium, the Wonder Emporium, is boring. Boring beats unfunny every time, and it is a worse movie.
Hey man, I guess I love to see people dying slowly through a movie. Guess that's my cup of tea.
I can see that.
All right, guys. Good arguments once again. Just a couple quick things again, because we're talking about quality of movie. Just to give some quick numbers, the Rotten Tomatoes score for Your Highness was 27% based on 172 reviews. The score for Mr. Gregorium's Wonder Emporium was 37% based on 124 reviews. And just because he brought it up, I did not realize this, so I decided to fact check this. Greg is not fucking kidding. Zach Helm has not done a single fucking thing since this movie came out. That is insane. His only credits are Stranger Than Fiction and Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium, and then a TV movie he wrote in 2009.
Yup. It killed a career.
And according to IMDb, he has a script that's still in pre-production with no date attached.
Yeah, listen, he can make a comeback with that script in pre-production.
It killed a career.
Oh,
Stranger Than Fiction was great. Stranger Than Fiction was great. This movie killed it.
All right. Definitely a really good fight. I think both of you guys really picked up on those last two fights. Those were really, really good. But in thinking about the angle that you guys took on the arguments, Asher was arguing more that Your Highness is a stoner comedy that's unfunny, and he talked, about you have an actor who doesn't necessarily do well as a lead in comedies. It's unfunny material that they're working with. Greg took the angle of this is a kid's movie that is boring and isn't imaginative and doesn't bring things to the table that people associate with kids' movies by explaining how it's boring. You have the death storyline, the creativity that's there is pulled from the movie, and he started off by saying it's boring, but he went on to explain more in depth as to why it doesn't work. Because of that, I am going to have to give him the point on this, which means Greg does get the knockout victory in today's match.
Fine. Listen, full disclosure, I thought Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium was Heath Ledger's last film. That is that's why I didn't choose it.
You confused it for the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah, because it's just
both long, clunky titles.
Yeah, and I was just gonna make a huge point about him dissing
this movie is so boring. So boring.
I just gotta be straight up honest with you. I was like, ooh, this is gonna be a great argument. I'm like, oh, he was in that movie? Oh shit.
This movie is so boring, it's forgettable.
All right, guys, and with that, Greg is our victor today, and that means he is moving on to the next round of the tournament. But let's go ahead and talk to our competitors real fast. First, we'll start off with the unfortunate loser today, Asher. Asher, first off, man, just want to say, even though you were knocked out, you stepped in. This was your first movie Battleground match coming into a tournament against a guy who's proven himself well in previous matches. How are you feeling after that?
Well, I think he's a fantastic competitor, and being knocked out is, a little bit disheartening. But I think what I ended up doing was I ended up trying to get a little too fancy. And I pretty much submitted my picks first, and I was thinking about choosing all the ones that Greg chose, and I ended up thinking, oh, the genie is going to be too easy, so I tried to skirt around it. But, Greg made great arguments, and because it's such a strong pick and such a good pick, and so the second one was, that was my choice, and I think I don't know, I just kind of want to see that happen, not maybe in the Marvel movie, but soon, because I think it needs to happen, that movie. The third choice, I think, I was thinking Unbreakable for a while, but to be honest, I've never seen it. So I think it just chalks that up to not watching good movies. And seeing Moonrise Kingdom, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. I'll choose that. And then finally, I totally thought Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium was Heath Ledger's movie. So that's just, yeah. And my whole argument would have been you're watching the last movie of a man's life. But obviously I was dead wrong. And because of that, I chose I will say I will watch Your Highness again. I think it's funnier than I gave it credit for. But because of that, I chose that movie. So
Still a bad movie.
Yeah. And all in all, I think I did a pretty okay job. I think I just got too fancy, and I faced off against a fucking behemoth of a competitor who's probably going to win this entire thing. I'm not counting out losing the trivia matches though. I think I know Greg's gonna say that he's gonna fucking trounce us and everything like that, but I think we have a lot to prove. I think I'm much better at trivia than I am at arguing. So, yeah, even though I'm Jewish, which is means I'm good at arguing, which is weird. But
All right.
anyway.
All right, and with that, let's move on to our winner here today, Greg. First off, Greg, you are now have a record of 2-1 with a knockout. How are you feeling after that match?
I'm feeling fantastic. Before I do want to say, a hell of a match, Asher. Us Jews need to stick together. So right on, L'chaim. But you could tell. You could tell it was definitely his first match. For his first match, I thought he did a hell of a job. Don't want to take anything away from him. I think with this experience, he could do really well in his second match that he'll have. As long as he knows what the actual movies are that he's arguing.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel so happy about my choices now, because, like I said, nobody remembers Mr. Gregorium. But I feel great. This is exactly what I expected to happen. And just like Asher said, this is exactly what will happen with our trivia match, because I just knocked his ass out. And Luca and I are going to knock their ass out. I don't know if it's possible to have a first-round knockout in a trivia match, but I'm going to be first-round knockout in a trivia match. And I know Luca would back me up on that. It's gonna be easy as pie. This is just the warm up to what will really be the deafening end to Asher and Lucas's team. And there's only one killer team, and it's going to be killer chemistry.
All right, and speaking of Luca, because of the way the brackets turned out and the replacements we had to make at the last minute, your next match is actually going to be against the winner of Linus Babcock or Luca Fallon. So my question for you is, how do you think that match is going to go? Who do you think will win, and who would you rather see in the second round?
I know Luca's going to win, which sucks, because it's going to suck to knock him out in the second round. But who do I want? Who do I want to win? I want my boy Luca to win. Above all else, we're partners. I want Luca to win. Luca will win. Luca should win. And if anyone's going to knock Luca out of the tournament, I want it to be me. And I think he'd say the exact same thing. And it's going to be a hell of a match when me and him face off. I think we might petition for 10-minute rounds just so we could keep on talking and arguing. And all I better say is, Aaron, you better have some damn good questions for that match.
Oh, don't worry. I'm doing my best to get better at writing more creative questions. We're definitely trying to improve that. We need a little bit more than just sometimes best and worst on everything, which I think I'm doing a better job at that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah. These are fun. These are fun.
Nuance. Give me and Luca some nuance. I want to. It's going to be a blast. Hey, Luca, it's going to be. All right.
Ready? Here we go. Greg, I'll give you some pre-prep. I want the best movie released in March of 1966. All right.
Oh, I was going to say the best Asian movie of the past 20 years.
Oh, boy.
I want the best movie that has been released in America that is yet to be released in England, because that'll help Luca. And then I want to talk about Annihilation for 20 minutes, because Luca seems very happy about the handling of that.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. So with that, we'll go ahead and go around back to Asher first. First off, thank you for stepping in and having your first match in the tournament. I know that must have been a little harder for you because you're the only debutant we have in this tournament. But we look forward to hopefully having you back in the future once the tournament's over. If anything, because you got knocked out, odds are you'll be playing Subrath, so you'll get a win.
Oh, cool.
No.
Oh, why are you getting my hopes up, man? Come on.
Jeez. No. Anyways, man, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on my YouTube channel. It's Asher Bricks and Gold. I make very short vignettes. I'm a filmmaker, student. They can find me on Twitter, which I never use, so I guess don't find me on there. at Hishimi Wumbo 1997 because I love SpongeBob. And they can find me, beating Greg and Luca in the team thing, whatever. I keep forgetting what it's called, but whatever.
There will be trivia. You are the editor, man. Come on.
Right. Yeah. Wow, I am showing my stripes right now. It is
Matt. Cut that. Make them look good.
Okay, it is 4 in the morning right now. I am pretty.
That is fair. Holy shit, that is fair.
It is 4 in the morning right now. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, yeah. I'm gonna go.
All right, Greg, man, where can people find you online?
Find me on Facebook, Gregory. That is all. And you'll always find me beating people like Asher in the movie Battleground, and beating other people in trivia and all of the various leagues. And you'll see me and Luca, Team Killer Chemistry, going all the way to the finals to win our championship with barely a blip in our road with the babies over there.
Yeah, so you know what they say about getting cocky. You turn into M. Night Shyamalan, you can only make good movies with Bruce Willis. So let's see what that happens.
Right. I think cockiness comes to after this match.
Yeah, I think we're going to get our next Last Airbender next match with you guys. So we're going to have fun.
All right. All right, guys. You guys can follow me personally on Instagram at Aaron T. Knoll. That's the only social media that I have. If you guys are not a part of the Movie Battleground Facebook page, please join it. As I said, with the exception of Asher, clearly because he stepped in first, we're not currently taking new players because we're in the middle of a tournament. But post-tournament, as well as bringing back returning players, we're going to be looking to get some fresh blood in there. So if you are not a part of the page, is the only way you guys can play. So please join that page so you guys can get a shot at playing a match. If you guys are not a part of the Worldwide Movie Games page or a part of the Full Metal Trivia page, support all the different pages for all of us involved on the channel. The only way we can all grow is if you cross-promote and help everybody on the channel, because everyone is out there producing good content, and not everyone is naming Evan as a champion. No, I'm going to give myself the most shit about that one because I need to beat people to that punch now.
Yikes. Wow, he just beat himself to the punch straight out of the frame.
That's what happens when you support Evan there. All supporters of Evan lose their video.
Oh my god. Talk about self-sabotage, am I right? Okay. This might be cut out. Keep it in though, please. This is comedy gold.
And make sure you guys also support all the other admins of Movie Battleground: Evan McGrath, Jeremy Hastings, Linus Babcock, Matt Beer, Robert Parker, and Subras Sharma. Follow them on social media. Support them. Support everyone, like I said, from all the different channels. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. My name is Aaron Knoll, and I'll see you next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care, everyone.